Welcome to Mainland, your local regional television station. I'm Tanya Omar, and some of the stories coming up in today's news. Dispute increases as concrete barriers are placed at Mapua Wharf. Special housing areas, no guaranteed fix for cheaper housing. Able Tasman land handover date set, and more. Concrete barriers have gone up on Mapua Wharf in a battle of wills between the old cool storage building owner Donny Yelverton and Tasman District Council. Although tenants of the council-owned buildings on the wharf have said that what's going on is not personal towards themselves, they recognise it as a growing conflict between council and Yelverton, prompted by the ongoing fence debacle seen as a spiteful barrier towards local business owner of Hamish's, Adele Culto. However, Tasman District Council tenants are paying a price of inconvenience in the Neighbours at War conflict, with service vehicles now unable to enter the wharf area for pickups and drop-offs. Chrissy Small checked out the new vehicle barriers and caught up with some of those down at the wharf.
Murray and John, we've got some new additions to the wharf that didn't cost council a cent.
No, you're right.
What do you think about that?
If you're talking about the fence post going up, no, I don't think anybody's really happy about it.
Yeah.
It's just a spiteful piece of work, really.
Yeah.
We've seen that they're saying that it was done to stop people being able to see the rubbish bins and the gas bottles, and of course if you have a look at it, it doesn't stop none of that.
It's not fit for purpose.
Doesn't block off any of that. No, it was made there just to cut off those two areas between each other, between the council-owned land and the property at the other end, and it's just dividing those businesses. No, I think it's just a spiteful, stupid move, to be quite honest.
So what do you think about the new concrete features that have come in there?
Well, he's definitely got a reason to do it, no doubt.
Yeah, and you guys have been locals for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
18 years or something.
Yeah.
I've been here for 35 years.
Well, there you go, yeah. And so you guys agree that there's definitely cause for that reaction?
I think Don's got a point, really. If it's his property, well, what the hell? He can do what he likes with it, I suppose.
How do you mend the situation that's going on here? What's the fix? Is there a fix?
I think, from what I can see, it seems that the councillors have not kept up with what's going on. The bureaucrats are running it and the councillors aren't, and we've seen that with the overspend in the area, which was over $500,000. The councillors should be knowing what's going on. They should be aware of all of those things so that it doesn't happen. If it was in private enterprise and you overspent the job by $500,000, which is virtually 50% of what the original cost was, you'd be probably lose your job straight away. It doesn't seem to happen here. So we're getting people running the shop that are employed by the Tasman District Council on behalf of the ratepayers. We pay their wages. But the councillors should be keeping up with the play and knowing exactly what's going on. I don't think they do.
No, so procedure wasn't followed with this overspend.
Yeah.
But look, the reports come out and you know, we've got the chief executive saying it's justified spend, but still the procedure wasn't followed.
Yes, I think so.
So should heads roll? Is it serious enough for someone to look at losing?
Certainly got to
Someone should be accountable for
it. Yes, absolutely. You shouldn't be able to just go and do that sort of thing and not be accountable.
So when you say accountable, what would you like to see?
Heads roll there.
You'd like to see heads roll?
Yeah, that's my opinion.
I don't actually know who is actually responsible. I don't know the individual responsible. I don't know where the buck stops with that, whether it's the CEO or whether it's further down the chain. But yes, somebody should be held accountable, and it probably means losing your job. But that's what would happen anywhere else.
Yeah.
The museum is just being done up again, and
so you pay council rent for the museum?
the council lease the front part of the building to the boat club. They've had that lease, as I say, they were responsible for the whole lot being here, and they managed to get a lease off the harbour board back in those years, and back in '87. And they've had to fight to stay here, and I was part of that fight. I was president of the club at the time when we were fighting for it, to keep here, to stay here. I mean, certainly when the club first came here, there was no suggestion then that we're only here until it became profitable for the money for the council, and then they booted out. And everything that we've heard, and we did run a survey which returned over 1,000 returns from it, and everybody wanted the thing to stay as it is. They don't want it to go commercial on the wharf. And we had that from people from overseas that said, don't do what they've done on our wharf in Mainland or wherever it was. One was in Australia somewhere. We don't go to our wharf anymore. We can't fish there anymore because there's restaurants and bars on the wharf. And I think this is an opportunity to stay as it is.
I've heard from some locals that they feel like they don't like coming down here anymore because it's too commercial. It's not like it used to be when there was Hamish's.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And there's nothing here for the kids, is there really?
Well, the wharf's still here, and we can still go fishing off the wharf, and they can still jump off the wharf, and they can do all those things.
Yeah.
And that's the things that drag people here, actually.
But that's for older kids. That's not your little.
Not the little wee ones, no. That's,
No.
no.
So
Playgrounds gone. There used to be
Yeah.
swings and slides and sand pits and that sort of thing over there for the kids, but there's nothing there now.
no. So council really haven't catered for that.
No, definitely not.
In fact, they've removed it in a
Well,
sense.
I mean, take a look around here. Look at all the steelworks that's going on around here. Where's the expense of that? Why is that justified? I can't see that it is.
Putting
Bloody
in these
silly
rails
gate
right
over
around the
there.
wharf that they've done just
What
recently.
good's the gate?
And this is
Take a
all...
look at the gate over there, for God's sake. I mean, what good's that?
Yeah.
No, it's silly stuff, really.
Yeah.
And
So you think the spending's been a bit OTT?
Beyond a doubt.
Yeah.
well, we know that. We know that.
Yeah.
You see those big flash bollards we have that stop people coming in and out on the wharf.
I heard they were 9,000 each.
I don't know what they were, but they were very expensive. They were certainly on the job for long enough doing it, and so they would have been very expensive. I haven't a clue what they actually cost, but
Some
were
of
they
them go up
necessary?
and down, don't they?
Yeah,
So-
they do, automatically, yeah.
Mm.
Right. Then you've got to have a number to key in to open them. If you're people that need that number, then you can get it. But,
So I'd say they'll be needing it with the new concrete divider down the end of the road there.
yeah.
It seems that council staff have claimed in their report on an overspend of almost $500,000 at Mapua Wharf that the unbudgeted spend-up was necessary and prudent. The report, written by Commercial Manager Jean Cooper, Corporate Services Manager Mike Drummond and Chief Executive Lindsay McKenzie, will be discussed by elected councillors on Thursday this week. They also admit that they failed to ensure that the council was fully briefed and to ask for approval, retrospective or otherwise, for the additional work. We went out and asked people what their opinions were on council staff spending hundreds of thousands of ratepayers' dollars without the correct permissions.
That is giving problems, yes.
Without those,
I think the Tasman's very similar to the Nelson. There's lots of problems associated with it all.
It's a bit of a joke, actually, because, if they're not willing to follow procedure, there's going to be a whole lot of complications and stuff. And as you can see, the work stopped and everything like that. The jobs are out, just because of basically council. Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, I don't know really. But it is nice over there. I was over there yesterday, and it is a nice environment. Just sitting there with the sun and everything. Yeah, but okay. Yeah, it's a bit of an issue, isn't it?
Special housing areas, SHAs, are designed to increase housing supply. They are one of several initiatives developed under the Housing Accords and Special Housing Areas Act 2013, HASHAR, which will be repealed in part in September 2016. Under HASHAR, Council can recommend a special housing area to the Minister of Building and Housing, who recommends it to Cabinet for approval via an order in Council. So far, Council has recommended 10 special housing areas which have been passed by Cabinet. Developers must demonstrate that their proposal meets the following SHA criteria, which is: be predominantly residential, meet the qualifying development criteria set for that special housing area involving maximum height, maximum number of stories, minimum number of housing units. Council are to meet at 10 a.m. on Thursday to consider 7 special housing area applications, as well as an amendment to the maximum number of stories for one gazetted special housing area. The recommended applications on the meeting agenda are 19 and 21 Beach Road, 371 Wakefield Quay, 81 to 83 Haven Road, 42 Domit Street, 1 and 5 Tahunanui Drive. While the non-recommended applications are 35 Farley Street and Saxton, option 1 and option 2. Meanwhile, Nelson and Tasman house prices continue to rise. In May 2016, Nelson City had a median house price of $454,565, a 10.2% increase from May 2015, from $412,534. Nelson Tasman real estate agents have also been claiming that demand for properties is outstripping supply across the Nelson Tasman region, contributing to a push in prices. The Housing Accord was set up as a commitment by Nelson City Council and the government to improve housing supply in Nelson. This accord is not in all reality designed to make housing any more affordable, except through an increase in supply. In reality, developers are in the market of making money, and there are no obligations in this accord for developers to release properties to the market in any given time frame. Chrissy Small spoke to New Zealand First MP Richard Prosser about the increasing housing crises.
What is the answer, Richard? We've had the government sell state housing, promising to put that money back into it. But where is it?
Look, we've come around in a big circle from the 1930s when the first state houses were built. State houses were built by the state because there was a need for them. The private sector wasn't providing, and private landlords, as they're entitled to, were out to make a profit. When rents become out of reach of people who are on low incomes or no incomes, they still need somewhere to live. The state then had to step in. Because it's only the state that can do that, and it's one of the state's responsibilities, and that needs to happen again now. The realities of life don't change, even though the decades roll around. The problem with homelessness is exacerbated, and it's entirely caused by, but it's exacerbated by the price of housing, particularly in Auckland, and as you say, rolling on to affect the rest of the country. And it is a simple matter of demand and supply, but it's complicated by the fact that there are no restrictions on who can buy. And when you allow anyone from anywhere in the world to come in and buy as much housing stock as they like, using money that's virtually free for them because it's at nearly zero interest rates from overseas banks, then money is no object for them, and so the market will simply rise to meet it. And it's all very well and good saying that there are going to be initiatives to build affordable housing. What's an affordable house? An affordable house is a house that someone can afford to buy. But if you put no restrictions on who can buy it, developers are out to make money as well. They're not going to turn around and they're not going to say, well, I'm going to build 100 houses at $300,000 each and only sell them for that to people who need them. For that sort of situation to occur, you have to have a government that says, well, we're going to fund this or subsidise it or organise it somehow and arrange it so that only first-time homeowners can buy these houses and it will be within this particular price band. When they allow anybody and everybody to come in, what's built as an affordable house suddenly becomes an unaffordable house, because if you've got people bidding for it and somebody who comes in from, say Asia, say North America, wherever, with a big fistful of dollars, and your $400,000 house suddenly becomes $500,000, suddenly becomes $700,000, it goes straight out of reach. So it doesn't really matter how many green fields you open up, how much of that prime gardening growing land outside Auckland that you tarmac over and concrete over and put houses on. If you don't restrict who can buy them, the price will carry on going up.
We've got this, the changes to the RMA are supposed to actually help make housing more affordable, but we're not seeing that.
Well, it may well make building costs lower. It might make the developers' overheads lower, but again, that won't be reflected in the price of the house itself when there is as much demand as there is supply. It's to deny the fact that when you have, as I say, unlimited people coming in with unlimited amounts of almost free money, and you put no restrictions on what they can buy, that's what's going to be the driver in the marketplace.
Richard Prosser, delightful to meet you and have you here in the studio today.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you too.
Chrissy Small spoke to Tasman MP Damien O'Connor about changes to the Resource Management Act that were designed to assist developers with supplying affordable housing to the market.
Damien, a housing crisis in the region. Of course, this is a trickle-down effect, which has happened from, I would say, from the Auckland bubble.
Yeah, well, trickle-down works usually against those poor people at the bottom, and this is another example. Of course, we've got an overheated Auckland situation, people bailing out of there, cashing up and coming down into the regions. Now, many of the regions like the West Coast welcome people down there, but when you've got already got tight supply in a place like Nelson, then it does, put the pressure on. And places like Motueka, it's very hard for young families or for people coming into the region who don't have a whole lot of money and not getting a lot of income to actually have a house that they can call home. A lot of flatting, a lot of people sharing. And of course the cost of housing hasn't gone down with new regulations, health and safety and things like that. So it's a bit of a bind all round, and unfortunately there are a whole lot of people missing out right at the bottom and having to live in cars. And I'm sure if you looked hard enough, you'd find some pretty dire situations in both Motueka and in Nelson.
We have already there, Damien. How's it going further down west? You'd be seeing a bit of it?
There is. I mean, we have houses, but they're not always warm and dry, and we've got people on low income. So while some of them may have a roof over their head, they too are struggling. And we've got just on average low incomes across the whole West Coast Tasman electorate. We've got to lift those up. They were slightly overinflated with some very high mining incomes for a while, and the last census would indicate that. But actually, when you take those away, as has happened now, we're back down to a lot of people who are finding it hard work.
The housing accord, that's supposed to solve some of the issues. Can you see that working?
Look, there's been a lot of flannel around the whole thing, and the government's attempts across the board generally have failed. They've made lots of noises about accords and about deals, fast-tracking RMA and all the rest of it, trying to get the cost of materials down. None of it seems to have worked, and it's been all talk because they've not really been prepared to intervene in the market to get large-scale housing developments underway. And we in Labour have said we'll embark upon a 10,000 a year building program that will effectively drive some economies of scale, do some deals with suppliers of materials, and get the cost of those houses down, and work on land options that are not costing an arm and a leg. So the government's been a lot of talk but no intervention, and we believe we need to intervene and get those houses built and put some downward pressure on the cost of housing.
What about developers? Do you think they're the ones winning out of this housing accord?
Well, developers, benefit by just trickling out supply onto the marketplace. They don't want too much out in the market at any one time. I'd never believe for a moment that developers want to go out there and rush onto the market a whole lot of houses. It's in their interest to just bring them on quietly, make sure that demand outstrips supply every moment.
We also asked locals for their opinions on special housing areas and their thoughts on state housing instead as a solution.
Although I think that's probably a good idea. Living costs in Nelson are horrendous, and for what we have and our wages, the wages are quite minimal compared to the cost of living here. So I think it's about time somebody addressed something for the younger ones coming up and how they're supposed to survive.
The developers have got a lot to answer for today with building subdivisions and not considering other people's problems that's associated with it, like especially GJ gardeners who are riding over people, and it really needs looking into.
I think it'd be a good thing as long as they can keep the price down. Like if the developers are just going to just keep the prices up just to pay for their bills, for the builds themselves, then it's going to be a bit redundant. But if they can actually keep the prices down so people can actually afford them, That'd be good.
Great, yeah. It's really quite hard to get into our housing situation. Yeah, I live on my own, so I know what that's like, yeah.
It's all steady as she goes for many local power consumers after Network Tasman's trust deed amendment has now been withdrawn. Industry-appointed Network Tasman board member Terry Kreft is the only unelected member and the only board member to have refused to allow any changes to the trust deed, which would have put him out of a job, making all 6 board positions elected ones. Kreft has in effect been a consumer watchdog for the Commerce Commission, who has put a regulatory body's cap on earnings, and if the deed had been changed, that would have put the Commission in a position where it would no longer be able to levy the Tasman network, with financial penalties for any increased earnings, though added charges to its customers' shareholders. Lou Solomon, who is an electrical engineer from Wakefield, who Mainland interviewed about the issue earlier in the year, has said all through the process that the Trust had not been open about the reasons for wanting a change to its deed, causing suspicion by Network Tasman shareholders. In total, 62 public submissions were made about the proposed deed change, with 59 of those submitters opposed to it, mostly due to concerns of any deregulation of Network Tasman leading to increases in power prices. The biggest New Zealand public-supported fundraising Give a Little campaign to date for the purchase of a piece of the Able Tasman is drawing to its final conclusion with the Awaroa Inlet Properties official handover ceremony taking place early next month. Officials from DOC, the campaign organisers Dwayne Major and Adam Gardner, along with representatives of local iwi, will be there to celebrate the gifting of the Awaroa Beach property purchased through a massive 3-week fundraising campaign back in February this year. The organisers had a vision to get public support to buy back the property to permanently take it off the elite property market for future generations of New Zealanders to enjoy. It's certainly proved to be a visionary move, and with the ever-growing perception that our property market is open slather to offshore buyers, has worked to assist in galvanising public support, with a total of 39,249 people donating nearly $2.3 million for the purchase through the Give a Little site. The upcoming ceremony will mark the Awaroa Beach property becoming part of the Able Tasman National Park. After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Are you looking for a scooter, walker, wheelchair, baby seats or pushchairs? Then come in and see the Nelson Region Specialist at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library. We have a huge selection of scooters, walkers, wheelchairs and accessories, along with a free booklet guide. We also provide a breakdown service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. We have fully equipped service vans to rescue you. Hi, I'm Robin Jordan and I invite you to call in and see the friendly team at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library.
Hi there, Julian Toon, Waimea Telecommunications. We install and maintain domestic and commercial satellite TV, UHF Freeview and Mainland TV installations in the Nelson, Tasman regions. We specialise in Panasonic telephone systems and provide communications, Wi-Fi, IT and wiring for internet, fibre, computers and DSL systems. At Waimea Telecommunications, we also provide specialist electronic systems for features such as a security camera you can watch on your TV, visitor alert systems and much more. Improve your security and communication and entertainment today. Call us on Waimea Telecommunications on 021 472297, ytel.co.nz.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. Fun while you get fitter, work at your level. For more information, please contact Shirley on 547 1433 or 021 121 8023.
Victory 60 Plus is on Tuesdays at 1:30 through to 3:30 p.m. at 238 Upper Vanguard Street. You can join in for cards, games and a cuppa. For more information, you can contact Jan on 546 9057 or 027 4577 955.
On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us, and we'll bring you the latest news and events from around the region again tomorrow.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
We're the team at JCar, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more. JCar.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Hi there, Julian Toon, Waimea Telecommunications. We install and maintain domestic and commercial satellite TV, UHF Freeview and Mainland TV installations in the Nelson, Tasman regions. We specialise in Panasonic telephone systems and provide communications, Wi-Fi, IT and wiring for internet, fibre, computers and DSL systems. At Waimea Telecommunications, we also provide specialist electronic systems for features such as a security camera you can watch on your TV, visitor alert systems and much more. Improve your security and communication and entertainment today. Call us on Waimea Telecommunications on 021 472297. ytel.co.nz.
I'm Larry London from VOA Music Mix, bringing you news on the hour from around the world, plus music 24/7, from the latest hits to those classic favorites to jazz on Saturday mornings, plus much, much more. You can contact us by Googling Mainland TV or follow us on Facebook. Cheers from the team at Mainland Radio 1 and VOA Music Mix.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
World War I was a defining period in our history, impacting greatly on the lives of people from the Nelson province. Memories of the First World War is an exhibition which will be displayed in a number of regional venues and is currently on at the Nelson Provincial Museum.